What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's a good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here, and our question for the day is simply, are the New York Jets sabotaging their own opportunity to get a top-notch head coach? Now, whether you want a first timer, whether you want somebody established, whether there's an expertise that you're looking for or not, isn't as important to me with this question as it is, are we giving ourselves the best shot at the best candidate? And I raised that question because it feels like we're dragging our feet a bit, right? We dropped Robert Saleh in week 5, week 6 of the regular season. We hired the 33rd team I want to say maybe a couple months after that, right? So in any event, what I'm getting at here is that we've been preparing and putting together what we need for these interviews, the candidate list, etc., for quite some time now, right? And so it feels like we'd be a little bit further in the process than we are, right? And it concerns me because when you take a look at the landscape out there, only one domino has fallen. It was arguably the biggest one in Mike Vrabel going to the Patriots, but once the Patriots fired Mayo, that kind of felt like it was officially locked in. Outside of that, we're still talking about, outside of the Jets, 5 other teams, Cowboys, Bears, Jaguars, Saints, and Raiders, that all require head coach openings to be filled, and 3 teams that are also dealing with general manager situations, right? So on the general manager front, I'm not as concerned. We're all going to be bound by the same stipulations for the most part because the expected pool of most qualified candidates are all in the playoffs, right? You take a look at, for one, our competitors, Titans, Raiders. 2, you take a look at again, what kind of the expectations around this, right? So when it comes to the GMs, and I don't know if this applies to the head coaches as well, but I did see Rich Cimini tweet something out that mentioned playoff team general managers can accept an offer if their current team grants written permission. So I think once it's mutually agreed upon between the Jets and said GM, for example, we would just need the team to sign off that, it's pretty much a done deal as well. Not sure if they can refuse, reject, or anything like that, or if that maybe just delays things until they exit the playoffs or win the Super Bowl, but we can go down that line later. The point of this particular video is that from a GM perspective, again, not as concerned. But from a head coach perspective, tons of question marks. Again, Vrabel being gone, we're already out of the running for top guys like Ben Johnson, Todd Monken, Cliff Kingsbury, for example, at least for guys on the offensive side of the ball. And defensively, you do have your guys, the Aaron Glenn's of the world, your, Spagnuolos, your Brian Flores's if you want, but you're starting to see more and more connections, more and more interest build as some of these other interviews take place. And so if you're a Jets fan, I wouldn't blame you if you're scratching your head a little bit and saying, why are we still interviewing people like Loxley, for example, out of Maryland, when we can be trying to jump on somebody like an Aaron Glenn, like a Brian Flores, et cetera, et cetera. One part of that is satisfying the Rooney Rule, and I think you actually have to interview 2 candidates at each position that may be available, which is what the holdup would have been there. But now that that's satisfied, still, it does give you question marks. Again, we've had the preparation. We have had plenty of time to get our ducks in a row. I don't want to say just interview guys for the sake of interviewing, but get the Rooney Rule out of the way and then really start honing in on your list, your candidates, your pool, the traits, the requirements that you have for that position, and figure out who looks like they are the best fit and go from there. Plus, we're still in this kind of no man's land, if you will, where we don't know if we're going to hire a GM first. We don't know if we're going to hire a head coach first. We don't want, a weird pairing where the head coach is necessarily picking the GM. And we don't want a GM that necessarily may just be relying on relationships. And there's a whole lot that can go into that as well. So plenty of opportunities here for the foot to get dragged. But again, You're seeing teams like the Patriots that went out and immediately snagged somebody. You're seeing the Cowboys who just dropped somebody who I would imagine would be able to pick somebody up fairly quickly. And the only potential saving grace here, right? The only kind of advantage that the New York Jets have, or I can't even call it an advantage, we're on the same playing field in this case, is that when you're looking at those same pool of targets, your Joe Brady's, for example, Brian Flores, McCown, Slowick, Vance Joseph, Aaron Glenn, all of these guys are in the playoffs. And so with them being in the playoffs, Arthur Smith, another one, if I heard he wasn't interested, but if something changes for whatever reason, just another name. But the only saving grace here is that with them being in the playoffs, we're all on the same timeline there, right? We need to wait for the next step in the process if they were even interviewed initially, or we need to wait for somebody to exit, and then we need to make a mad dash to the finish line. So I don't know. I really don't know where we're at here. I don't want a situation where like we start to see an Aaron Glenn go to the Saints, for example, or we see him go to the Jags or whatever the situation is. I don't want to start to see top guy in the ranking pecking order, if you will, start to leave, 1, 2 at a time, and then suddenly the New York Jets are picking between having to promote somebody like a Josh McCown, for example, or maybe we find out somebody like Bobby Slowick doesn't seem like they're necessarily ready, but because he's on offense and because he's the fourth next best option that's available to us, we have to go that route. So hopefully it's pedal to the metal here pretty soon. Again, we're really bound by the playoffs and what's happening there. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe it's ultimately nothing and we will see some action once we start seeing some of these teams leave. But you never know. The NFL is crazy. You could see potentially maybe one of these playoff teams decide, just getting to the playoffs isn't enough. Think Mike Tomlin, for example. Think maybe a owner that's tired of getting to the playoffs and losing or something. And so you never know what can happen. Maybe some additional openings pop up. If not, just the pool itself. I don't know where you would rank us amongst them, but I would say the Cowboys potentially are ahead of us. I would say the Bears are ahead of us because of their quarterback situation. Jaguars ahead of us because of their quarterback situation. You can argue the same thing for the Cowboys, and then Saints and Raiders, it's a little bit more arguable. But more questions than answers right now. So let me know what you guys think. I'll catch you again. Peace.